Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. Here's some ideas about boatloads of entertainment media. Some serious, others not so much. Generally only spoilers for whatever's currently featured, and a bit of vague references to other things in a shared universe. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Armageddon, Part 1. Thawne must have chosen 2031 as a starting point for his reverse Flashpoint creation shenanigans because it was a year light on big bads who were formidable in the timeline impact department. It's probable he had no clue Despero even had tech that let said angry alien actually travel throughout history, given how little was known about the guy's species and homeworld. Chances are, after those extensive studies he did during original event Hoopla, Eobard just saw said fellow as some random piss-off fishman the Scarlet Speedster once beat up. Barry most likely only remembers the previous Season 7 end Found Life and nothing about this awkward new world because he just returned from dropping Bard and Nora off at 2049. Given the huge power gap on display in that last finale, Nemesis-free moments are basically the only ones where Yellow Pants mixed stalker face could get away with butterfly effect generating whatnot. At least until the Scarlet Speedster and everybody he knew started questioning his sanity. Anyway, in addition to making all those desired timeline-shaping changes directly required for hatred-focused life-stealing crap, Thawne would have probably messed with things repeatedly merely to stay in existence, as Speed Force rule hack activated historical preservation malarkey is all there is keeping him intact anymore. This would involve basically pointless things like changing Mark and Frost's relationship over the summer and whatnot. Of course, after doing that, rippling junk would force him to screw up even more for true goal completion's sake. On top of all that, he'd also be making changes to help ensure Iris reach peak success as early as possible. After all, someone from his glorious family couldn't be married to anyone not noteworthy, which would definitely lead to more unintentional steps for finish line reaching. And that'd kind of be a pain. But Eobard most likely could find some fun in all that by figuring out how extra Barry ruining might meet any neo-historical demands universal pushback crap springs on him. Mr. Only One Who Knows How to Manipulate the Timeline Correctly probably faced further hurdles because he needed Nora Dark and Ray's wedding always taking place so certain legends would be adequately distracted from his most recent antics. Barry could very well have used some speed thinking to make that joke because tension cutting seemed absolutely necessary after he learned stress would activate Captain Kramer's mimic powers. Thawne's temporal to-do list likely involved making his crime scene investigating nemesis constantly feel strong emotions, including awkward nostalgia, so Cecile wouldn't sense the latter not realizing Joe West has perished. It's incredibly probable Allegra thought up those smart-ass notes by reverting to her past self as an Iris West writing fan who's never actually met the woman. The statement regarding reveling in betrayals could very easily just refer to Eobard being extra theatrical after stealing his true obsession's normally red-clothed face. Armageddon, Part 2. Despero's psychic interference is, somewhat ironically, vital for Thawne getting away with making the new temporal edits necessitated by the former's own past traveling. That is, Sir Scarlet Skin mind-screwing with resident similarly toned heroic speedsters and telepaths would prevent them from noticing a certain stabbing aficionado, messing even more up to get his plan completed once again. The once again under investigation Officer Allen would visit that guard all not superhero costume because his reverse counterpart's manipulations, coupled with extraterrestrial psychokinetic crap, are messing with him so much that he instinctively doesn't feel flashy enough at certain times to remember such actions would fall under that wacky old good idea category. Commanders sometimes Harry resembling need to make sure Star Labs got shut down during a post-easy temporal language translation capable period where folks had enough free time to notice and decipher any new other era originating messages so nobody but past him would get informed of his current actions. Also, he'd specifically require any home base removal associated blame to be put on someone self-loathing and prior him meeting action lacking like Cheshire to keep horrible luck questioning shenanigans at a bare minimum, lest the team catch on to how everything fits his MO. Once again, and also, that radiation gun getting made and providing a Despero killing option in case such a thing ever became necessary was probably a really nice bonus in his eyes. Thawne might always instinctively know how to manipulate the timeline to get what he wants because the negative Speed Force granted him a talent for figuring out temporal blind spots, fixed points, and other complex chronological crud, which would essentially be something super similar to how, seemingly without fail, it basically brainwashes folks into states where they build machines or whatever that cause hate-filled power-granting events and etc. Barry most likely thought up that excess charge venting assault maneuver after realizing exactly how the great energy match which gathers in him during intense heal-demanding situations flows. Upon doing that, all he had to do was decipher how it can get out in a way that's unpleasant for anyone currently surrounding him in an existence-threatening manner. Life and death situations can make normal people do crazy things. It only makes sense that metas with souped-up brains could figure out how to do such stuff, but take it up many notches. On top of earlier made inferences regarding remnant shielding memory protection crap lobbed upon now but also not yet Daddy Allen just returning from dropping his children off in their future present. The guy might be recalling correct history whatnot because he's been communicating with said later already born kids in that aforementioned eraser-proof language. Probably just with little notes or something instead of a full-on journal like the previous daughter had done. Eobard most likely had an extra easy time messing with things in a way that threw off this flame-favoring fishy foe, because said guy's hatred of false symbols brings forth reminders of how he felt after his initially boundary-ignorant yet still purely benevolent idol adoration turned into unrelenting despised fixation, craziness, kinda junk. In other words, knowing what it feels like to start hating Flash after loving him for so long made him kinda sympathize with Finface in a perfect flawed action prediction enabling sorta way. Villainous puppet master antics keeping Kara off-world were required because she'd likely believe her buddy Barry without question, like in Elseworlds. Especially after rebooting all of reality together alongside him, even if her mind changed due to history. All that junk must have made her instincts appropriately supercharged. Oh, and Martian Manhunter would have been taken out of the equation simply because he dealt with Despero's mental attacks far too easily. Armageddon Part 3. Black Lightning is utilized to disable Flash because getting rid of his metagene with that cure might not let all the stored Speed Force energy get removed properly. On a related note, the aforementioned medical maybe miracle wouldn't ever be used on the other non-alien powered League members because there's worry nefarious folks might poison any sample if they hear it's being prepared for these not-so-criminal appreciated individuals. Nothing like that would be kept at the Hall just in case the apparent injustice event involves something much more likely than legit grace falling. Like mind control. Even mostly ordinary vigilantes like bat people jabbing everybody under the influence would be far too risky a scenario. Although, the more science-related option might be the ultimate backup plan at Argus in a situation where all clearly greater than average do-gooders have become world enemies. Anyway, the other them-devised contingencies might be as follows. Various mineral treatments for Kryptonians, which might even involve the possibility of it being phased into their bloodstreams via speedsters or Martians. Hackers like Cisco or whoever would defund the tech relying. Perplexingly pissy Principal Pierce probably would be handled by his family or a reversal of what's happening here if the former's not an option for whatever reason. That recently brought up sorta secret government organization likely has at least some elite operatives trained in anti-ancient assassin tactics for a supremely sadistic Sarah. The heat gun or a cooperative white Martian could be used on a corrupt Jean Jones. Especially following the Soviet Firestorm shenanigans on Legends, there's likely a fusion-disabling splicer thingy on hand to stop any future malicious transmuting people. Magenta could screw Nate over really good. If she weren't available, then just a simple giant electromagnet should suffice. Someone's gotta have figured out the anti-magic properties of nth metal by now, especially after that one professor actually studied this stuff before. On that note, if all else fails, others could find Constantine or learn petty dark arts dabbling themselves in order to handle practically anybody else. Oh, and relatively mundane solutions like trained snipers could take care of any redeemed enhanced weapon-equipped rogues like Snart or Rory. The extra-dimensional energy that bleed in after a particle accelerator activation almost definitely provided further fuel for his pie-tar flame. While combining mind meaningless with Cecile, Top was probably trying to overtake the minds of former Scudder cronies and guards and stuff in order to make bank vaults or whatever open. Related, she wanted the former to forget about Joe Junk because dwelling upon cop people too much might result in an extra strong crime-stopping focused mindset coming about, which could very easily ruin her fun. Somebody like Psycho Pirate, who can remember earlier history versions, most likely wrote that normally crazy but currently totally accurate graffiti piece. Seemingly, Thawne can't hold the wedding anytime other than 2031 because it's the only point that shouldn't create any Barry resurface enabling temporal side effects. Figuring this kind of thing out would have been a nice unintended benefit of studying how to constantly make sure he himself never fades. Armageddon Part 4! Aside from time travel just being confusing, Eobard would take an extra lengthy route redundantly ruining Barry's world place before outright replacing him because even more stalking than usual was required to figure out how true life theft could succeed. After all, if he didn't do the correct stuff as the new Flash, cause and effect wouldn't lead to him having literally everything his enemy previously did. In addition to knowing one's ultimate foe intimately related foresight crap, dodging like this came about so easily because his opponent is connected to the power source he's supposed to be using. Time-traveling misfit assassination was necessary so the other main Gideon wouldn't inform her comrades everything got all screwy. This particular feminine AI might have also been problematic because her medtech skill set would likely be able to detect a false face wearer like a certain reverse-themed villain in many different forms. Of course, Mr. Ramon was off, so he couldn't vibe things being messed up during any power-having point in his life. Most likely, Thawne performed his mentioned changes in the order he stated them. In other words, from Team Flash's perspective, these things were done backwards, in reverse. An earlier version of that PED the super odd couple needs for world restoration was likely used by Eobard to prevent other chronological travel-savvy folks like Time Masters or Bureaus from detecting everything he's been doing. After killing Kid Allen, he most likely started using that stone for extra historical stealth action so he didn't get sensed by other time-traveling Flash versions or his past future self, who still managed to slaughter Mom Nora, by the way. Also, this specific reality-ripping rock was likely Grodd's confiscated one that he stole from Diggle and Lila after ruining Star Labs in 2021 earlier. He would have actually been the one to supply Mr. Dark with it in this latest universe iteration. The paragons, such as Ryan Choi here, probably had especially grandiose life changes forced upon them because their situations being too similar might have resulted in particularly strong gut feelings regarding things being off. Restarting all of existence has got to leave some sort of irreversible supernatural imprint. Chainsmoker John's probably dead and in hell right now because the current Scarlet Speedster wouldn't care about his cancer issues and demon deal related problems getting taken care of. Only running for that long with negative speed force and either an intent to destroy or ignorance of how it works could cause such devastation. Armageddon Part 5. Present police officers being informed on who this not remotely mellow yellow fellow is would be because Mrs. West Allen would have printed an expose on him for the dual purpose of husband helping and clearing up Harrison Wells' name after her word became strong enough to Central City's masses. Vaughn tries to murder Mia because he thinks screwing with a future in a way that involves killing departed friend children might push the incredibly emotionally vulnerable Red Fast dude into creating another Flashpoint, something which would inevitably open up many new opportunities for self-existence reigniting. Asking for deletion prevention assistance so publicly must be a ploy by Eobard to help give him more new history significance. After all, if distressed naturally do desperately request help from Scarlet Speedster in CCPD were a famous newspaper headline, Time would have no choice but keep him around long enough for that to take shape. It isn't really him specifically, as in the mind mass which constitutes what one might call his recognizable persona, that's fading permanently, but rather everything exclusively from a certain quaky apocalypse-having timeline. He's simply all that remains at this point, as the not scaly but other aquatic life cosmetic possessing enemy is still capable of naturally reaching his old ideas with new events. Actually, being born has neat perks like that. Anyhow, the remnants necessary for normal vital event causing, like Matriarch massacring reverses, can't go off script and help him or try anything else new anymore because Black Flash would be extra pissed about that. In addition to it simply being his nature, Thawne is constantly antagonizing everyone so his negative powers remain strong enough to help his death delaying work out for as long as possible. Barry's extra concerned about Eobard's origin right now because dealing with another Dawnonora gaining race has made him curious about whether or not his eternal enemy could ever be redeemed like the previous one wondered. Guy might have even been considering consulting a certain all-knowing AI regarding if he could perform subtle actions in his present that would make a new benevolent version get born centuries from now without changing anything else about the future. A truly not take-backable fading is a risk this time because the Flash is at a point where he's actually willing to not focus on the dude anymore, thus reducing said guy's hatred enough for certain awfulness-fueled power sources' absolute failure. Without heroic retaliation, there'd be simply too much disappointment to continue going on. Oh, he won't get unmade without any speed at all because the universe gets confused since it thinks it's just another Harrison Wells, a being who actually still currently can exist. After talking with Detective West and not being in a sanity-questioning scenario anymore, Officer Allen regains enough normal mentality junk to realize Despero has been lying, since CSI Mind Mode is now obtainable once again. Barry taps that glass extra slow because with all the stress he's been dealing with lately, there's worry regular attention grabbing fast won't be possible. He definitely wouldn't want to produce a noise that normal paced brains couldn't comprehend. There's probably even concern that the normally automatic not breaking unwanted things secondary power benefit might not kick in when he's this rattled. The kids don't fade into that photo until everything's completely over because Vaughn was going to kill them if he survived with his abilities intact. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.